Hey everyone, Lonnie Lobb, lead technician from Styler Technologies. Today we're going to talk about Dell's M1000e, their blade enclosure that we're using for the 10th, 11th, and the upcoming 12th generation blade servers for Dell. This unit itself is a 10U unit that will take 8 full height blades or 16 half height blades, stacked one on top of the other here. This unit's got a front control panel that we can use to do initial configuration, check alerts and statuses on the enclosure itself, the actual blades, and also the I/O modules that I'll talk about on the back. There's also a VGA and 2 USB ports that can be enabled when we use the iKVM in the back. I'll also talk about that later. It's one of the management features that's included with this, this blade enclosure. So I'm going to flip it around. We're going to take a look at the back and look at all the fun stuff here. All right, this enclosure will take up to 6 2700 watt power supplies. We can use 3 different modes with these power supplies. We've got AC redundancy, which we can do depending on what kind of blades we've got in there and what config we're doing. We can do 2 and 2 if we got like a half enclosure going or something like that, or we can do 3 and 3. This AC redundancy, you'd want to come at them at if you're doing 2 and 2, you want to come from one AC source into these 2 or these 3, and from a separate AC source to these 2 or these 3, and that will provide us redundancy in case we lose one of those sources. Everything's going to stay up. We should be good to go in that aspect. The other modes we can run on these power supplies are just actual power supply redundancy. So we can go 2 power supplies with 1. We can go 4 and 2. We can go 5 and 1. There's numerous we can go here. These power supplies, you can plug them in and just have one as like a hot spare. So if one dies, you've still got this other one that fires up and goes. The last one is just normal straight power, where we can run either 2 or 3, which is what this one's set up for right now. These also have 9 hot plug fans that have the Energy Smart technology, and what that does is provides the lowest amount of fresh air to the unit while still keeping things very power efficient. If you've got 3 of these in a rack, you want the lowest amount of fresh air, so it'll reach the fresh air that's coming in the front is going to reach all 3 units. The unit at the bottom isn't going to suck in all the fresh air, thereby making the other 2 overheat. So very efficient if we're running a full cluster or full data center full of these things. Great planning by Dell. So that's awesome on that aspect. Okay, let's get into the cool stuff here. I/O ports, or the I/O modules we've got. We've got 6 I/O slots, and we can actually use 3 different I/O fabrics. We can set up redundancy on these 3 fabrics. The A1 is going to be used for whatever's on board, so it's going to be Ethernet, usually 1 gig Ethernet. We'll see what comes in the new 12th generation. But right now, everything, all the blades offered have a 1 gig Ethernet port that we can use for Fabric 1. 2 and 3, I'll talk about some of the offerings that we can do with that. The actual modules themselves, there's a Flex I/O midplane in here, and what that does is allows up to 5 terabits per second of data transfer just between blades. So, for example, if we're running InfiniBand 40 gig quad data rate InfiniBand, we can run up to 5 terabits per second blade to blade, which is really freaking cool. Okay, so now that we kind of know what those plug into and that all the blades talk to each other internally right here on that Flex I/O midplane, let's talk about the offerings from Dell and Cisco and Brocade for what we can put in fabrics B and C. with every fabric, you've got to have a corresponding mezzanine card to essentially give each blade functionality to that fabric. So there's marked on each blade B and C. You have to plug in a mezzanine card to those. Currently, from Dell, we've got the option, Dell's PowerConnect series. We've got a 1 gig and 10 gig switch option. They've got numerous releases for these, and I'm sure there's going to be revisions to them or additions to them. So keep an eye out on Dell.com and watch our website, stikc.com, to see what we've got in stock and what we can provide to you. But that's just kind of basically, the PowerConnect series is just doing 1 gig and 10 gig Ethernet right now. We've also got Cisco's Catalyst series of switches, and we can do 1 gig switches there, and with numerous configurations of uplink ports, and there's different models we got there. Like I said, check Dell.com to see what's out or what's upcoming, and that'll give us plenty of information on that. Brocade offers a 4 or 8 gig fiber switch that we can put in here to hook up to our SANs and do all sorts of fun storage and virtualization and anything you'd want to do with this thing. It's going to be really cool. Management functionality, which I'll talk about in a minute, is killer on this thing. Like I mentioned before, we can also do the Mellanox InfiniBand cards. We can do a dual data rate or a quad data rate switch in here. So we can go either 20 gigabit per second or 40 gigabit per second, which is just, I can't even imagine it. It's going to be awesome. All right, so we've gone over the fiber, Ethernet, and InfiniBand switches. We've also got pass-throughs. If you've got a really cool switch or a really cool, if you've already got the hardware for your fiber or your Ethernet in the rack, and you just want something that provides a plug in the back, and you'll do all the wire management and plug everything in yourself, we've got pass-throughs. Dell offers a 1 or a 10 gig Ethernet pass-through, and Dell or Emulex offers a 4 or 8 gig fiber pass-through. They're also backwards compatible to 1 or 2 gig. But if you've already got the hardware, you just want these things to plug right in, then we're good to go. Okay, like I mentioned before, management. The management of these things is amazing. There's so many cool things that we can do with this. How we do it is with the CMC, the Chassis Management Controller. This is a single interface where we can take inventory of the enclosure, configure the enclosure, monitor everything that's going on in there, and kind of check the alerts if there's anything going on in these machines. The really cool thing is you can stack 9 of these together and manage them all from one port on the back. You'd have to set up a separate network, have all of them stacked together, plugged into the stack port on the CMC, and everything's manageable from one. You can see multiple enclosures when logging into one CMC. So really cool management feature if you've got a bunch of these enclosures running all at once. The other cool thing we can do is systems management. We can do firmware and BIOS upgrades directly from the CMC. We can also upgrade the firmware to the blades themselves or the I/O modules. If the I/O modules, you got a new update from Cisco, from Brocade, from Dell, upgrade it right from there. Really cool. One of the other things we can do is dynamic power engagement. And what this does is lowers power consumption by ensuring that the power supply units are running at optimum efficiency. This is going to be really good because everyone's always worried about power consumption, going green, saving money on electrical costs and all this. This is going to be really good because we can manage it. We can even manage it at a system or a slot level. So you can say, you can read what each system is drawing. You can set a minimum and a maximum to it, and you can also set prioritization. Okay, the other thing the CMC can do, we can monitor, we've got a fan speed controller. This optimizes the cooling and airflow while minimizing the power. Like I'd said before, that's got the fans that take the Energy Smart technology. That's just the way you can monitor and manage them within the actual CMC. And if you're wondering, how do I get into it? How do I provide access or whatever? It has full Active Directory integration. You can set up users on the actual CMC yourself if you want just separate users. If you've got an Active Directory server running and you want to give just domain admins access, or however you want to do it, you can full Active Directory integration. So it's a great security feature so that not just anyone can get in and manage these things. Okay. The Avocent iKVM, I mentioned that before. You've got to have this plugged in order to run the ports that are on the front. This actually takes the ports on the front and actually makes them live. So you can plug in, if you've got a crash cart with a keyboard, monitor, mouse to do testing if you're having issues with your network or something like that. Plug it into the front, test, do whatever you need to. We've also got the ports on the back as well. We've also got an IP port where we can plug into any of the IP-enabled Dell KVMs that are available, the 2161DS or something to that line. Okay, so we've gone over most of the management features here. The last one is the management feature that's involved in any of the Dell PowerEdge equipment, and that's going to be OpenManage. We can take OpenManage, install it on the blades, and do full chassis management through OpenManage as well. So there's a lot of management options here, some really cool features to just kind of take this thing. And I mean, when Dell planned this thing, they planned on running it for a while, which is why we've seen 10th, 11th, and we're moving into the 12th generation servers. We're moving up to, there's going to be all sorts of new technology coming out, I have a feeling, that is still going to utilize this same enclosure. The last thing that I'm going to go over with this M1000e is going to be the flex address capability. This is also done from within the CMC. Flex address, you can take and give a worldwide name to the actual ports on the back here, or to a slot in the enclosure. Instead of having the worldwide name or the MAC address of the fiber or your iSCSI or the MAC address of your Ethernet port, go with the hardware of that blade, you can set it to that slot. If you ever have a problem with a blade and need to just unplug it, plug a new one in, you're good to go. No reconfiguring necessary. You've got an easy replacement, or even if you're upgrading servers, if you're upgrading the actual hardware, that is going to follow the hardware that you plug into that slot. So if you need to, there's no need to reconfigure storage paths or do any kind of rezoning or anything like that. That's all management in the CMC as well. And so, like I said, this thing is a beast. There's lots of options we've got upcoming with it, lots of things we have going in the past, lots of upcoming, and it's going to be a great enclosure for years to come, I have a feeling. So, like I said, check out Dell.com for any new modules that may be available, or check STIKC.com to see what we've got in stock right now and we can get you fitted with right now. Thanks, guys.